Consider for a moment the realities of our time. It's the last 2+ years of our President, Rodrigo Duterte. He hails from Mindanao. Was he elected due to some freak accident because his reputation precedes him at that time? A mayor of a city so far from the central government in Manila who has become a president. That's quite a fantasy. Hindi makatotohanan, pero naging totoo at naging makatotohanan. I can hazard an explanation. Desperation. The number would support it. After all that's been said and done, we in Luzon elected him. Some will say for the better, some will say for the worse. Regardless, the concerns by our brothers and sisters in the south of the Philippines is that there might not be another chance for their cause to be heard by the rest of the Filipinos, especially in the north, and most especially in tightly squeezed, highly pressurized situation in Metro Manila, now and after President Duterte's term of office. Understandable how combustible and flammable the situation can be as viewed from the top. Desperation. We can give his administration the benefit of the doubt in matters of national interest and national security, as we don't have the personal information and data that they have. Elsewhere, what we know so far is that one region cannot boast or cannot be shamed about the monopoly in sending Filipino workers abroad. It's individualized economic decision made by a Filipino family because basically they need the income it will provide for them. And that's not a sole predicament of Mindanao. Luzon and Visayas share that problem. I have these in mind when first I had submitted the details of my proposition to the Office of DOTR, or the Department of Transportation, Secretary Arthur Togade, and then the Department of Interior and Local Government, the DILG. They have the most direct connectivity with the grassroots of the Filipino citizens, even to the nook and cranny of the archipelago, without exemption, in a linear fashion. It is at this premise wherein cooperation is expected and will be demanded. A balanced view can only be achieved if there are sources of information and concerns translated in the language, in the ways and means that our lawmakers can understand and heed. At the risk of allegations of heavy-handed power play, when the prerogatives of the executive are opted to bring about a free-flowing of cooperation, participation, objection, appeals, and decisions from all answers forwarded in an orderly manner, the last 2 years are bound to be significant, and who would not want to be part of it? Who would not want to get involved and somehow make a difference? Hello, my name is Curies, and I've begun working to be part of Grab Holdings Incorporated, operating in Southeast Asia. I've started to work on how I could be part of it, part of the whole organization, since before we took a trip to Hong Kong, March of this year, 2019. Our neighboring countries where we don't need to get a visa to visit, well, I was most curious whether by this time we still share lots of common things with our neighbors. ASEAN, remember? And then I realized there are some differences also, like they can make a mixed cultures work in harmony in most parts of their country. Of course, I am not expecting a paradise or utopia, workable, livable, and that got me thinking, that sparked my curiosity and sparked my interest on our neighbors to look beyond Asia, Europe, US, that I have missed the chance to pay a closer look at our neighbors. Shade realities, the temperature, the climate, we share so many things with them. In Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Brunei. Parang I know that I am missing. They are just the countries on top of my mind when I say Asia and when I say neighbors that I know that I must work. Special mention to Vietnam and Cambodia because we all know that the Vietnam and Cambodia in 2019 is the aftermath. What they are now is the aftermath of so many bloody revolution and armed conflicts, decimating their population and the structures that witnessed that withstood the armed conflict couldn't be, they couldn't be used unless they got thoroughly checked, and some of them have been abandoned because they are no longer safe. So they had to start from zero, the ground zero. Our OFWs, said to be the heroes of the nation, they can't help but be witness for real-time changes happening all over. For example, women are being issued driver's licenses in Saudi Arabia, and there are so many closed cultures opening up to become open cities, international positive development or climate change awareness is being pursued with vigor by the stakeholders, which is the next generation who will inherit the place we call home, the world, the earth, and they are waking us up. The apathy among those who have seen the glory days when the natural resources were abounding, and they just can't believe that it will reach an alarming point. But the generation now being aware of the lost, deeply felt loss from the pictures, from the videos of the past, and they no longer see the connection. They're the ones who are waking us up. And tayo, here in the Philippines, watching, in times past, after working out with the technicalities of the business, the mode I'm working on, I don't derive relaxation when watching TV because we're all still so consumed with things that have been consuming us for the last 10 years, 5 years. So we're stuck in the trafficking, it's in the degradation of the natural resources, and nobody can blame us because everything stops when you're on the road and all hell are breaking loose elsewhere and you can't do anything else but to wait out the crawling until you reach your destination, or vice versa. It's either you or the person you have to meet is on the road, and we take turns for the use of the much coveted space on major roads, side streets. We call esquinita, we call pathways where only the tricycles and motor vehicles, two wheels, vehicles like motorcyclo, they still get a lot of traffic, and they still have to compete for the use of the road because they can be littered with vendors, pedestrians, so they still have to navigate even though it's not inside. For sure, here in Lucena City, oh boy, when it's rush hour, we still get our own share of that predicament. It doesn't help that the temperature outside makes us feel like bacons being fried to be crisp. Wherein we will not be edible anymore. Our family will get the worst of it, what we have suffered outside, where some of it, our family will bear the brunt of it. Having said this, I'd also like to say that sometimes it pays to take off our eyes and to look away from what's obvious in order to see what's not obvious and what we've been missing, our blind spots. Because we might be so intent on obsessing over what's before us that we lose sight and we lose our perspective and that we lose a vision on our, which is very important in problem solving. First, to take over our sanity is our temper, or so I've been told over and over again, and I've just gotten to be an expert, to have a master's degree on that at the University of Hard Knock, because it's been floated each time I would take a step forward or a progress, you know. Oh, no, there might be some insanity somewhere, and that somebody might lose his or her cool, and you know, oh my gosh. And finally it has come to pass that the problem really has been festering, and now it's on the surface. So we are going to be mediated over the whys and wherefores of where this long floated idea had come from, so that I could participate finally. In some quarters, the term they use is redirection. It's what we do to make the best of irritating travel time. We tune out in our mind, or we find something to occupy us while waiting it out. The physical realities just can't be overcome overnight. So what we do in the meantime, it can make or break us, you know, our sanity, our cheerfulness, our time with our family. All these words just to say that we're in it together. The transportation industry and the commuters and the family awaiting us when we're on the road and we take our turns as our friends and associates are on their way either to get to us or to their own destination away from us. And I know you will all agree with me when I say that each time we board a bus or a jeepney or hail a cab, even drive our own car, it always has a purpose in it. It always has a purpose in it. And that purpose has to do with economic reason, emergencies, to meet with a loved ones, or even leisure and pleasure. So many reasons. There is no standalone or domination of one regulation that governs the reason we have each time we intend in our heart that we're going from one place to another and need transportation to do just that. Even not physically teleporting ourselves, but through telecommunication, using our cell phones. That's why it can't just be one department that's at regulation. So what's wrong if we talk with each other? Since in reality, so many things are factoring in, so many elements are, we are the product of the interplay, the coordination between one regulating body, one regulating agency to another. So if we participate and take hold of the direction, be it a redirection, diba? What can go against us? So this is your truly Carissa Talaga, CEO of Talaga Information and Business Consultancy, and I want to invite you to watch out and watch out for the details. We are coordinating with different departments, local counterparts, in order to name a venue, organize the events in order to bring the coordination from the top down to the grassroots where it should matter.